The story of Cassie Howard is one that resonates deeply with anyone who has ever felt the quiet, aching void of a parent's absence. To understand Cassie, her choices, her desperate need for love, and her often painful romantic entanglements, one must journey back to the very foundation of her world, her relationship with her father, and the profound abandonment wound it created. This is not merely a footnote in her life, it is the central, defining trauma that casts a long shadow over every interaction, every smile, and every tear. The origin of this wound is a tale of emotional neglect, broken promises, and a little girl who learned far too early that the love of the most important man in her life was conditional, inconsistent, and ultimately, something she had to earn, a prize she could never quite grasp. Imagine a young Cassie, all bright eyes and boundless energy, a daughter who inherently adores her father. In the ideal family unit, a father provides a daughter with her first blueprint for how a man should treat her. He is meant to be a source of safety, of unconditional love, of validation that tells her she is worthy simply for being herself. For Cassie, this blueprint was tragically flawed from the start. Her father, while perhaps physically present at times, was emotionally distant. His love was not a constant, warm presence like the sun, but more like a flickering light bulb, sometimes on, sometimes off, leaving her in confusing darkness. He may have been preoccupied with work, with his own life, or perhaps simply unequipped for the emotional responsibility of fatherhood. His attention, when it did come, felt like a reward, something bestowed upon her when she was particularly good, particularly quiet, or particularly achieving. This created a devastating core belief in Cassie's psyche that her worth was tied to her performance, and that love was a transaction, not a gift. The specific moments that carve an abandonment wound are often not grand, dramatic departures, but 1,000 small cuts of neglect. For Cassie, it was her father forgetting to pick her up from school, not showing up for a dance recital he promised to attend, or being too absorbed in a newspaper to listen to her story about her day. Each instance was a silent message. You are not important enough. My time and attention are elsewhere. These micro-abandonments teach a child that they cannot rely on the people who are supposed to be their bedrock. The father, who should have been her anchor, became a source of instability. This breeds a deep-seated anxiety, a constant, low-grade fear that the people you love will leave, either physically or emotionally. For Cassie, this anxiety became her normal. She likely learned to become hyper-vigilant, scanning her father's mood the moment he walked in the door, trying to preemptively manage his emotions to secure a sliver of his affection. This is the birth of the people-pleaser, a role Cassie would perfect in her teenage years and beyond, always molding herself into what she thought others wanted her to be, a skill first honed to win a father's love. As she grew older, the pattern likely intensified. Promises of quality time would be broken, heartfelt conversations would be cut short, and her emotional needs would be dismissed as drama or neediness. Perhaps he was critical, pointing out her flaws while rarely offering praise, making her feel she was never quite good enough to truly capture his steady devotion. The ultimate manifestation of this wound might have been a more concrete abandonment, a divorce where he moved away, a new family that took precedence, or simply a gradual fading from her life, leaving a haunting silence where a father's guidance should have been. Whether he left the house or just left the relationship emotionally, the result was the same, a gaping hole in Cassie's heart. This hole, this abandonment wound, is not an empty space, it is an active, hungry void. It constantly seeks to be filled, to find that missing validation and security. And this is where Cassie's future is written, almost like a tragic script. This unhealed wound from her father becomes the lens through which Cassie views all her future relationships, especially with men. Unconsciously, she is drawn to partners who feel familiar, men who are emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, or who require her to perform for their affection. Why would she do this? Because her wounded inner child is trying to win the game she lost with her father. If she can just be perfect enough, love enough, sacrifice enough for this new man, then finally, she will receive the approval and love her father withheld, and the old wound will be healed. This is why she tolerates terrible behavior, why she clings to relationships that are clearly unhealthy, and why she conflates drama with passion. The anxiety of waiting for a text back, the highs of a brief moment of attention, the crushing lows of neglect, this chaotic cycle feels like home because it is home. It replicates the exact dynamic she experienced with her father. A stable, kind, consistently loving partner might feel unfamiliar, even boring, to someone whose template for love is rooted in anxiety and pursuit. She mistakes the intensity of her anxiety for the intensity of love. Furthermore, Cassie's abandonment wound directly fuels her crippling fear of being alone. The silence of being by herself echoes the silence of her father's emotional absence. To avoid that primal pain, she will jump from relationship to relationship, often overlapping them, ensuring she is never without a source of external validation. Her sense of self became so fractured in childhood that she never developed a solid, independent identity. She only knows who she is in relation to who is paying attention to her. This is also the root of her rivalry and jealousy with other women, like Maddie. If love is a scarce resource she had to fight for from her father, then other women are not just peers, they are competitors for the limited supply of male validation. Her actions, which can seem manipulative or desperate, are not those of a villain, but of a wounded child acting out a survival strategy that once kept her hoping for her father's love. The tragedy of Cassie Howard is that she is forever looking for a salve for a wound that can only be healed from within. She searches for her father's love in the faces of every boy she meets, in every fleeting moment of attention, in the arms of anyone who offers a temporary distraction from the void. Until she recognizes that the origin of this deep pain lies in that early relationship, until she grieves the father she needed but never had, and until she learns to reparent herself, to provide for herself the consistency, validation, and unconditional love she was denied, she is destined to repeat the cycle. Her story is a powerful, heartbreaking map of how a father's failure to love his daughter properly can send ripples of damage through her entire life, shaping her into someone who confuses longing for love, pain for passion, and who risks losing herself completely in an endless quest to fill a hole that was dug for her when she was just a small, trusting girl looking up at the first man she ever loved, waiting for him to see her, really see her, and stay.